Hey kids, it's Jurassic James, and it's Jurassic James looking at Liopleurodon Part 1 and Kronosaurus Part 2. So I did a Kronosaurus video like a while ago, so with these three figures here. There's a new one now. There's a reason why I'm connecting them, because you'll see in a minute. But on Liopleurodon itself, I want to point out my first exposure to this animal was in the uh, British BBC Walking with Dinosaurs. And I remember I was a kid, and it was really cool because when I was a kid, we would go to church at the daytime, and then there was like a nighttime church. And I remember that I really it was premiering Sunday night, and I remember I actually begged my parents like, please let me miss church tonight to go see this thing. And they're like, well, we can go to church. I'm like, but it's this dinosaur documentary. It's really important in my future. Everything depends on it. And so my mom was like, okay, fine, we'll let you stay home and watch the thing. And I was like, yes. So, which is terrible, but yes. So they in Walking with Dinosaurs, they had different chapters like late Jurassic and mid Jurassic and late Jurassic North America and all that. So that's when I first saw Liopleurodon. Now at the time in the '90s, that's the last century, kids. The Liopleurodon was considered to be one of the largest predatory animals to ever live in the ocean. The largest animals, of course, are whales, right? Particularly blue whale. But this is the largest predatory in that it. I mean, whales are predators of plankton technically, but they're hunting and grabbing things. So they show this animal, and they're implying that it's like 50 to 60 or 70 feet long. It's this huge, huge animal. Uh, right after that documentary came out, as all these things do, there were attacks and questions, and it turned out they found partial skeleton, and they estimated it bigger instead of smaller. Same thing with its prey. They showed it attacking the leads at these. This is a lead at these. It's the world's largest, not bony, yeah, ray-fin fish, bony fish. And so they estimated that these guys are as big as like 80 feet long or 90 feet long. And then again, re-estimates for people looked at it again, meaning estimates, so it's not as big. This one, if you're looking for leads at these, the only one I know of out there for sale is if you go to, like, it's on Amazon, there's like a little prehistoric creature then collection you can buy for like 30 or 40 bucks. So, my first Liopleurodon figure, I went to the museum before I worked there years ago, and I saw this one in a little bit, and I bought this one. This is from China, and it's labeled Kronosaurus. That's awful. But the idea here is that it's the Liopleurodon from Walking with Prehistoric Beasts. Walking with Dinosaurs. And so, in general, big picture stuff, they're all plesiosaurs, but the plesiosaurids are the ones with the longer necks and small heads, and the pliosaurs have big heads and small necks, right? There are a couple exceptions here and there, but overall, the pliosaurs are terrifying. These are before mosasaurs, so the pliosaurs are from the Jurassic period into the Cretaceous period. Mosasaurs show up in a very in Cretaceous period. They're a different lot entirely. In fact, they're a different kind of reptile. Mosasaurs are closer to snakes and lizards, not these guys. And so, this one overall, I mean, given that it's the scale of the figure on the scale of the animal in the documentary was incorrect. Overall, it's hitting all the main points. We find these pliosaurs, and they're luckily they're marine, so they settle down above the ocean. If they're going to scavenge and get buried, so they'll find them kind of not complete but pretty articulate, and so articulate, and then as in they are in position they were in life most likely, not disassociated or broken apart. So this one overall hits all the main points. You can see some of the teeth kind of coming in and out of the jaw. That's questionable overall, but in general, this figure holds up, right? There's a company called Dinosaur Valley that came out after that. It was big in Toys R Us. Rest in peace, Toys R Us in America. So the idea here is that they had this like, you buy the submarine and the little person who dives. They came with this one. In my opinion, the head's way too big. I know the toy is focused on biting action and all that. Also, we don't know if there were spines or bumps like this on the side, and there's these, but and the tail's way too small, even for marine. I mean, the tails are generally smaller, but this seems just, in proportionate for swimming. But again, what makes the pliosaur so special or unique is that they have these giant heads and these giant mouths full of teeth. And so that's why they're so neat in general. And this one, again, I would give it a A+++ as a toy. It's a great toy. So it looks really neat and it's really imposing. Scientifically speaking, the body's not everything it should be, so grain of salt. But I do want to point out that if you can see it kind of here, the nostrils are like right there. So again, they're higher up like that. So that's kind of a cool thing to point out. So other examples of this, smaller examples, is one that's it's this company I found as a kid. I can't find them online today. They probably don't exist anymore. But you buy the figure and you glue it together like this. And this is another Liopleurodon figure. And so here's a smaller one from one of those Amazon prehistoric packs of animals you get. My mom bought me a little pack of natural creatures, and it was in there. So, again, it's the same proportion. I mean, Liopleurodon really, despite no longer being thought to be the biggest animal in the ocean that ate meat a long time ago, it really impacted the zeitgeist, and now people kind of see that as this idea until things change. Then we have finally something more scientific with the 2010 safari made in China, like Pleurodon. So again, that you're seeing, they all have the similar pattern. That pattern is, again, we don't know what color they were, but we do have a thing called counter shading. So counter shading is when animals are darker on top and then lighter on the bottom. So it's dark here, light there. So in theory, if you are at the bottom, if the camera's at the bottom of the ocean and this thing's swimming, and there's a lot of, I'm the sun, there's all this light here, this white belly, like, how you can't quite see it. Likewise, if the camera was on a boat looking down and it's like this, well, the ocean, it gets you down, the light doesn't go very far, so it's darker. So if it's below you, it can, surprise you. We do know that plesiosaurs, particularly their long neck cousins of pliosaurs, have their eyes facing kind of up to come up from below and grab their prey, usually fish and squid. These guys grab larger things. I will point out that in Walking with Dinosaurs, it shows Liopleurodon attacking a Eustriptus spondylus, which is a kind of a megalosaur relative in Europe on an island. And do know dinosaurs on islands are smaller. And I did know, because I'm me, that people thought that that was a Tyrannosaurus that was being attacked by a giant creature. And I was like, whoa, no, no, no. That's terrible. That's a horrible interpretation. So, this guy, I think the last estimate I've seen is like maybe 25, 30 feet, which is still big, but not huge, between, or was it 15 and 25 feet? I can't remember because there's so many prehistoric creatures. But again, not 80 feet long, right? So the Jurassic World line comes out with this guy here, and what's really neat about it is that if you look there's the DNA code. If you push the button, it does this. So the unfortunate thing for children particularly is that it's an electronic toy with batteries, and yet is a marine reptile. So your choices are leave out, like I do, leave out of the water and appreciate it on a shelf or whatever we're teaching with, or you put it in the water and it no longer roars and makes those noises. Your choice. I would just advise taking the batteries out before you destroy it. So one thing to point out, the fins here, is that the proportions are weird. The four flippers, the ones in the front, pretty much are usually bigger. The back ones are bigger. And I'm not sure. I don't think I've seen that before on any skeleton. So interpretation from toy makers. In general, they have this this kind of like rotational power, which is really cool. I mean, it doesn't walk on land, but they can kind of rotate up and down. And what's really cool about pliosaurs and plesiosaurs is that a penguin, for example, a modern penguin, it's like a football-shaped body, and it has these flippers here. And they can dart around in the water, very hydrodynamic, right? This guy being slower because it's larger. Well, in the museum, they point out on the label, Dr. Bacher writes double penguin, because imagine that same maneuverability as a penguin, but two sets of flippers. You can turn and twist like that. So that's what that works really well for these guys. And again, this overall figure is really nice, but like I said, I like the skull because the skulls look like that. Yeah, it's really cool. Anyway, so I've already went over the story of Kronosaurus and how this is middle to late Jurassic, England, France, and Germany. This is Australia, early Cretaceous, basically. So I went over the Kronosaurus from the, let's see, where are you from? The Safari 1996 of the Carnegie Company. This is the 2017 Safari, so it's an upgrade to that one. This is a different company, I know. This is Collect A 2017, so same year as that one. So you're like it's like the fence straddler, like same company, same year. Anyway, both of these guys live with plesiosaurs and ichthyosaurs. Ichthyosaurs went extinct in the late Cretaceous, not at the end Cretaceous, towards the end. And I mentioned before that we know that they're carnivores because Kronosaurus was found, the first one found, had a plesiosaurus in his mouth. So there you go. Also, there's an ammonite in Australia like this. It looks really neat. That's this kind of coiled over shell. There's more than this one species that does that, but this is a really neat one that they sell in toy form. Then we get to the unboxing, of course, and what's going on here will be, let's see, moving pieces around. So with the official scissors of Jurassic James, we will unsheath the weapon, and we will free our Kronosaurus. and the tail within the side there. So this is the same wave as Diabloceratops and Dryosaurus and the Eocaparia from weeks past. Let's reach in there. Okay, so this one's slightly different. Let me, for safety, receive the scissors. And then we're going to put this there and put this in here. Now, there we go. Did that hurt? So, interesting. I am impressed because I thought that these two were just the same figure. Now, one thing to point out, this one, the Kronosaurus, is thought to be bigger now, and it is, in the world, pop culture, public, it is replaced. Not that there's documentaries about it, but like there's the idea it's kind of replaced Liopleurodon. It's a big pliosaur everyone talks about. We have our DNA code. It's the same thing as before. We have this where you turn it like this. Let's compare their mouths. Let's see. So it's got a, like, but they would have never met because this guy from middle to late Jurassic Europe. This is early Cretaceous Australia. Now, what I do like about these guys is that they're not just. I thought they initially, when I first saw it, they were just carbon copies of each other. But actually, it's a retool clearly of the toy. But what I do like is the tails are very different. And even though we don't find this kind of like an almost shark-like tail, there's still, we see in print sometimes for these things, and it helps for maneuvering. But again, it's not really solid science. We don't know for sure. So. I've seen it for Mosasaurus. We'll have this, or for Ichthyosaurus in particular, where you'll have the bones going down. This part here, there's no bones in that, so they think it's cartilage like this. So that's what you're seeing there. But with these, I've not seen anything that implies that. So it's neat, but we don't know for sure. But again, I like that the Kronosaurus is like bulkier than the Liopleurodon, and again, Kronosaurus is this really huge, terrifying soulless animal. But the idea is that I like that this is more narrow because I honestly thought when looking at these online that they were just the same figure repainted, and they actually made it different. And I like that a lot actually because you've come so far to make a figure, why not make it as accurate as possible? So pliosaurs in general, these guys don't recall, they don't survive in Cretaceous. They get replaced by Mosasaurs for the most. Well, there's a couple actually. I don't think about it, but the main thing is they're one of the top sea predators. I mean, when you think the word, I don't like to use the word sea monster, but when you think sea monster, giant jaws, some of them up to 10 feet wide, not wide, long. These are terrifying animals, right? And they eat whatever they want, basically. But I do like the fact that this is more like wide and flat and big. Is it louder? This one is louder. It feels louder. You can feel it vibrating more, too. The same call. I just realized that they have more than one sound. Anyway, so with these guys, again, if you're going to go into marine reptiles, these are great animals. Again, if for display purposes, get your Jurassic World plesiosaur and just put it in the mouth of a pliosaur, and that's how you know it's real. Is it cannibalism? No, different species, just cousins, right? So anyway, that wraps up the pliosaurs with Liopleurodon Part 1 and Kronosaurus Part 2. These are all very interesting animals. Appreciate them. If you want to study prehistoric life, you can't just do dinosaurs. Trust me, I tried. You have to study the marine life, the invertebrates, all those things. So here you are. Appreciate it, and I'll see you next week.